convened a meeting with the various political parties and various organizations that have been involved in activities or work around matters that relates to foreign nationals or immigration in broadly, because as we deal with the issues, it should have been quite cognizant that it was not only about illegal foreign nationals, but also those who are legal in the country. We engaged with them, not per se to hear from them what are the concerns, but to outline as government what is it that we are doing in relation to issues that relates to immigration, migration in the country, but more zooming in terms of our cluster work in illegal immigration. You would understand the issue of illegal immigration would be matters that then are within our purview as a cluster, because this will be within the criminal justice system. So we had various organizations that joined us, various political parties. We've invited all political parties that are represented in Parliament, and then we've invited various parties supported by the Secretariat, various organizations, NGOs, and all that have been marching, have been raising issues of foreign nationals into the meeting. It was a hybrid because not everybody was able to join us here in Pretoria. So those who were not around were able to join virtually. In the discussion, we presented the work that we do from the JCPS cluster in terms of from current legislation in present moment, but also legislative reforms that we are working on, both in terms of small businesses, the small business licensing bills that are out, for example, the policies around home affairs, immigration, but also reflected on the legislature or the court or jurisprudence that has affected us or that has led to some of the decisions that would have been. Following that, we looked at the statistics in numbers. In terms of deportation, how many foreign nationals have been deported, what are the highest countries. For example, you'd have Zimbabwe, Malawi, and Mozambique being the highest, but well, other countries, you do have the numbers. Similarly, we would have looked, so it was statistics, how many we have in terms of our prisons, in terms of those who have been arrested, who are foreign nationals.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bolo. Veronica Makhodi here from Newsroom Africa. We have been hearing and seeing on social media a particular date, the 30th of June, as a deadline for undocumented foreign nationals to leave the country. This is something that's been led by March on March. Your remarks to that, and also how serious are you as ministers taking that? I think the only way I could say is the demand by these organizations for this to take place. It would not be right without me reflecting on Africa Day. Was this meeting held particularly to try and perhaps maybe save face for the country as they continue to face some criticism over how much these marches have intensified and the narrative that's also being allowed to spread? I'll keep it there for now.
Thank you. That's the second one.
Kosnati Shazi from Power FM News. Just two questions. The first one is related to my colleague's question. On the 30th of June, does the security cluster have a plan to deal with whatever will unfold on that day? Of course, a number of people have taken to the streets, whether they are for the movement, whether they're unemployed, and basically South Africans were frustrated with the plight of the country. Do you guys have an intelligence plan? Are you guys ready to deal with it? And then just last question, the issue of the compliance and enforcement of the immigration laws, is it being nullified by South Africa's constitution? Because a number of undocumented foreign nationals like to say that South Africa is for all that live in it. And
particularly relates to diplomatic relations with other African nations right now. We have seen, an influx in migrants coming to South Africa, given political, instability or economic instability in our neighboring countries or on the continent. For you, as the South African government, how much responsibility do other African nations need to are seeing, and where are you in terms of your engagement with other African countries?
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Cassandra Lewis from SABC Television News. Just a few questions, Minister. Would you say that government's approach to where we find ourselves currently has been lukewarm all along? Given that you're announcing now a group of deputy ministers that will now go out and be deployed to the streets to ensure that, why is this only being done now? Because we've seen quite a number of these protests escalate over time, and those who are in the security cluster, yourself, would even consider that to be a threat to our national security as well. Minister, is it true that there were some individuals that walked out of this meeting? They were not satisfied. They spoke to some media indicating that they felt that this was a talk shop, there was no agenda that was put on the table. They felt that this was not going to solve the problem essentially. And lastly, Minister, do you think this position of deploying these deputy ministers to the streets will be enough to quell what we're seeing taking place on the streets currently?
Thank you very much. Colleagues, let's give over to the Minister with the panel to respond, and then we'll get to another round of questions. Minister, thank you.
Should I ask Minister Msipa to start? I'll come.
Okay. I did not note all the questions, but I think colleagues will assist. I think what was,
Hi, Rikishi.
okay. What was also key for us in the meeting was to say the right to strike, it's a constitutional right. We have freedom of to strike. So that's the 30th of June. It's within their right, so there's nothing really to panic. And that's what I said to them. You say, we're not panicking, it's within your right. It's contained in the Constitution of the right to strike. And also reminded them also to say that right also goes with certain responsibilities. Because what we've also seen in these matches also cannot necessarily be overlooked. As much as South Africans have the right to strike, and their anger and their frustration is highly understood, and we explain to them also the fact that even as government ourselves are hard at work. So it's not that we ask, I think Zuza will explain that we have inspectors going to the communities, and it's something that we're seized with on an ongoing basis. So it's not like because there's a threat of the 30th that there's really a crisis or there's something. And I did say to them, and I think with tongue in cheek, to say on the 1st of July, the sun will rise from the east, will go down on the west. So between us and them, this is our country. We all have a joint responsibility to build it. So whatever happens in between, it shouldn't be anything that really takes away our responsibilities as South Africans to say this is our country, with them, to build it. And that's the spirit we even explained to them, to say the 30th, yes, we note respectfully, we support them, actually, to have a free and safe march, so they shouldn't panic that anything is going to go wrong. All we are asking them is to do within the framework of the law. We've had incidents with South Africans themselves. I mean, I told them I was terrified when I saw a South African paint spraying a foreign immigrant. I said at the end of the day, they're human beings. They have the right, they have a dignity to protect everybody's dignity. Whilst we have all the frustrations, we have a responsibility to treat people with respect despite our anger. So it said, let's do whatever you do. You are protected by law, 30th, or even 15th, or any other day, you want to go in the strike, you are protected. The law allows, so there's no crisis there. What we should do is to make sure that we do it within the law, out of following our ethos as South Africa, of respecting other people, despite how angry we feel, but we have a responsibility to respect them and treat them and not throw our problems to them. We also, I think, discussed with them that Migration, it's an international phenomenon, and the South Africans have to agree as to how we handle it. Because it's not anything that has befallen. It has created a crisis for us, big one, and we could cite lots of examples about how it's really created problems, even for the state. But it is an international trend that we should be able to manage also as a continent, but also as a country. So for me, this meeting was to really emphasize the responsibility, and it said to them, in Zimbabwe, but they say so that the country belongs to its people, so they are country people. So they can't just, all of us have those who say government. It's all of us that were involved in this thing, and that's for us the spirit. Having been a politician, I'm used to people rising and saying there are tick boxes, and I said I will come with a box here. We came here with the spirit of saying, this is our country, let's work on it together, let's respect the laws of this country, let's respect, even the people, though you may hate them as much as we can, let's respect them, but let's also respect the culture and the value of this, the values of this country. Yes, there are concerns about our standing, our difficulties, but the issue that we're raising here to say we have to work together to deal with the problems that we're all confronted with. And we gave them examples about how as different departments have been, not only now, have been dealing with the issues, and perhaps it's time that we talk to them and explain to them what has been happening. We may not have communicated some of the activities, what the thoughts are, what the plans are. This is an opportunity which is brought by an advantage of a crisis. A crisis also helps to say, with all the marches, it's really helping us to say, maybe it's time to react.
But what would have triggered us calling this meeting is that when these marches started, they were localized. So from a national JCPS, we don't react to marches that are localized or within a province. So when it's a municipality, we leave it to that province, the local district to deal with it. When it's a province, it's the provincial JOC that deals with it together with the teams. But what brought us one was that the marches were now starting to be national. So that's how it drew our attention. It drew our attention because they are now on almost all the provinces that there are marches. But again, as Minister Motshekga, they are starting to be violent. So when there are peaceful marches across, we would not draw our attention. We'll monitor, we'll follow, but once they become violent, then they draw our attention as well. So that's the issue. But in the meeting, I must highlight that another organization, I'm not going to say which one, actually flagged that their logos are being used wrongly. So they were urging us to pay attention because they do think that there are people with ulterior motives utilizing their logos wrongfully. That worries us, meaning that within their organization, and this is what we were raising with them, that you do not have the capacity that the state has to be able to analyze, to be able to detect, even where you are infiltrated by anyone. It doesn't have to be sophisticated foreign intelligence or anything, but somebody who can want to tarnish their image, to tarnish themselves, can enter into that so that the organizers themselves lose face. So they did acknowledge, one organization acknowledged that their logo has been used wrongly. They are appealing for us to work with them, to help them, so that wrong things don't happen in their name when they did not organize those marches. So I thought I should be able to reflect that. Issue of balancing act, yes, is important. And that's why we talk, and we said to them, we live in these communities. We are ourselves affected, and perhaps even the society is affected by everything. But there is a responsibility that we have as a country to ensure that things, even where there's outcry of something, those are done within the law. So there is a balancing act in terms of ensuring that voices that are rising against or raising concerns about their socio-economic issues. We even made sure, we said, when you look at the challenges that we have, for example, there's unemployment, There's issues of needs that people are looking for. If we are a family and I have a pain, when I have a pain, I'm likely not to point within my family. I'm going to point at my neighbor to be the cause of my pain. And sometimes that's what happens. So we do have the socio-economic challenges that we have as a country that we must address on our own. The economy is not growing. We are not able to create the jobs that we are supposed to. So they lead to unhappiness by our society. And that's why working together, we have a job to do as JCPS to protect the economy so that those who are investing can grow the economy and jobs can be there. So that's part of our responsibility. The issue of human rights, yes, because in the process, who is the authority to be able to determine this is a foreign national, this is not a foreign national? As Mayor Njimtsega says, when a person literally sprays a paint on a human being. But again, it's two ways. So we are saying there's a balancing act in responsibility, protecting the individual because they have no way of knowing who this person is. And they acknowledge, because we said, as you march, there is a responsibility of the songs that you sing, not to be dividing our nation. There's a responsibility of the words that we articulate, not to divide our nation or make somebody feel threatened, because it goes beyond just foreign nationals, but ourselves as a country, as nations, so that we can live side by side together in terms of that. So that remains the responsibility that we have. Yes, we do as the country on human rights issues. For example, we are monitored like everybody else globally in terms of whether we are upholding the human rights issues. But we believe as a country, our response is that we are not xenophobic as a country. And we don't believe that South Africans are xenophobic. There are socio-economic issues that we've got to deal with, we've got to respond to, but equally, we are appealing to South Africans to know that there are migrants who are in the country legally. They have not broken the law to be here, because we are part of a global society. As Minister Msaka says, you would move out of this country to go. Our own companies are invested in other countries. Our people are working in other countries. All we are asking is that everything, let it happen within the law. Similarly, that's why we've committed to saying where there are illegal immigrants, law enforcement must be able to take them out of the country because they're not here correctly. Those who do crime, I don't think when we classify that this is when we find you to have committed a crime, you have committed a crime, you are a criminal, irrespective of whether you are a South African or a non-South African. So that's how we approach issues. The issue of engagement with diplomatic relations and engagement, you'd know that Minister Lamola was hosting SADC ministers of foreign affairs. He did an interview, he explained how the engagements have been. There's not been a fallout from where we are sitting. We continue, we are chair as South Africa, currently, interim chair, and our chair work starts in August. And the feedback we got from Minister Lamola that he has been saying openly is that many countries say that they understand that we've got to uphold, we've got our laws, and we've got to uphold the laws. And they are saying, can we enforce the law so that citizens don't take the law in their hands? So he was part of the meeting, he had to go, he's preparing for his budget vote. So we've looked into that, and this will be continuing engagements. I think that's what was raised by Naomi. The issue of people going to places, that's what we are, that's what we are calling for South Africans not to do. We have inspectors in Home Affairs, we have inspectors in Department of Labor, we have BMA that has been doing the work, they've gone into communities. Whether you go to Diepsloot, for example, those of you who normally go to Randburg Magistrate Court on Monday. Literally, you'll find those cells full of foreign nationals that are being deported, that have been arrested, that are being deported. Week in, week out, we have that. So it's not that it's not done. It is done. And it's going to be a work that we have to do together. And one of the issues somebody said in the meeting, one of the deputy ministers, he says, even ourselves as South African citizens, we are culprits. because we march, we scream, foreign nationals, but in our houses, our domestic workers are foreign nationals. So it says it's not a government-only responsibility, it's all of us as a society to be able to deal with it, to be able to say, those who are here illegally, let them not be here, be deported. Strengthen our laws in terms of making sure that they don't take the jobs of South Africans. The issue, Griselda says we've been lukewarm. We've not been lukewarm. As I say, net joints have been doing this work week in, week out, I can tell you. We have statistics to show for it. The reason we took this is because we do believe that sometimes people recognize those that they voted for. South African citizens would recognize, they would not see General Musikiti and net joint. They would not recognize them. But if it's done by us, that's the reason we have done. If it's done by us, they know these are the leaders that we have elected. We want to see them action, and that's why we've taken this decision to be able to. We seeing the protest. As we say, they started localized, they are now national. All we are appealing, as Minister Msaka said, I want to re-emphasize, they have the right to march. They have the right to hold protest. But we are appealing to them to ensure that they are peaceful. And we have appealed to them in the meeting to say, those marches, notify us. You are going to march, how many people you are expecting, so that as the state we can be able to ensure law enforcement on the ground. When they do not notify us, you can't plan for the number that you do not know. And therefore, they're immuning us from responsibility. I think that's the issue that were raised. Part of going forward, for example, the issues of technology to be used. Currently, BMA is using technology. Deputy Minister Nzuza will explain later. Just the issues around even BMA having 3 pillars of approach in terms of responding. So there's work that is seriously being done in government in responding to this. And that's why we call them to say, not that work is not being done. Let's take you through the work that we are doing consistently. Let's take you through the work that is being done. For example, Labour has proposed even amendments in legislation in terms of fines for corporates. Because they are saying they go and do these inspections. They find corporates have recruited and employed foreign nationals, but because the amounts of penalties might be lower, and therefore they can budget for them, and they've called for reforms in that area. So there's consistent work that is being done. You can hear we are detailed about it to show that it's work, it's not thumbsuck, it's not something that we could have planned overnight, but it's work that has been happening in the country.